You could probably, explode a nuke right under the White House, and he's going to survive because he is the one right now that God is using to bring us to correction. And until God is finished with us, we're finished with him, excuse me, and either because he's bringing somebody more wicked or because we've straightened out and asked God for his forgiveness and humbled ourselves, anything you try to do, like Jim said, anything you try to do is going to fail or it's going to bring something worse. So
Hitler survived over 20 assassination attempts.
Yeah.
So he had a destiny to fulfill, and nobody was going to interfere with it.
That's right.
When Peter understood that Jesus was going to go to the cross, what did he do? He stood in front of him and says, "No, he's going to stop." What did Jesus say? "Get behind me, Satan."
Uh-huh.
So, this is something that I don't think that we're going to have an actual rise of the militias are going to take on, the government per se, like a war, a conventional war. Right. It'll end up being a guerrilla warfare like what happened in Nazi Germany. Now, although I'm not going to go grab a gun and get 900 rounds of ammunition and go join any kind of war, and if anybody's listening there from the government, the secret's out. I'm against you 100%. There's nothing left of anything that reflects the kingdom of heaven or of God. And I'm your enemy, and I will admit I'm your enemy. And I will do whatever I can to help Oath Keepers or any other militia during a time of civil unrest to help them fulfill some of their obligations that they feel they need to do. I'm not your friend. So red dot me, take me, but guess what? You can't do anything to me. Because if you come to arrest me, just like what happened with Paul, God will send an angel, and if it's my time is not up yet, he's going to grab me and say, "Yep, Jim, time to go. They're out to get you. We'll take you to a safe place." I have no fear because I know God's perfect love for me, and I'm trying to accept as much as I can from him. So in your face, I don't care. You can't stop me until God says you can stop me, and until then, I'm just going to keep going and praising the Lord and preaching the gospel and helping others to prepare for what you're planning to do to our nation. Mm-hmm. So there. I earned my red dot. I want it. I expect it.
Right now there's a DOD satellite zooming in on your house.
Well, you know what? Right now there's a Holy Ghost shield that is protecting me until I have done all that God has required me to do.
That's right.
That's only two things I'm working for, Dave, is I want it to be said that in my last days that now Jim has accomplished all that God had purposed him to do. And then the next thing I want to hear is, "Well done, now good and faithful servant."
Amen.
That's all.
To that.
I don't care about anything else. The Illuminati this, the Illuminati that. You know what? I laugh at you. You think you're going to win. You have this elaborate plan woven into every fabric of society. I laugh at you. I read Revelation 19. You lose, you chumps.
Yep.
You're not going to win nothing. You're going to burn like everything else that you worked for.
And all those little tunnels you're running into aren't going to cave in on you when you want them to either.
You got it. It's like we're in a win-win situation, man. We can't lose.
That's right.
I refuse to be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, no, it's not going to happen. Not with me.
Yeah. Jim, I think a lot of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know a lot of it has to do with faith. Don't get me wrong. I would say 99% of it has to do with faith, with the lack of fear. But another thing, Jim, that I often, as I'm getting older, I'll be 57 in January. As I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that none of it matters. It's just life. And as I see the nation going down the tubes, and I see transsexuals running around, and I see all this wickedness and everything, I'm like, man, I don't want, now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take myself out. I would never do that. But it's like, man, the minute that God calls, I'm ready, And I know that a lot of Christians feel the same way, and it's a good thing because we're supposed to hate what this world does. We're supposed to hate the sin that this world commits, and not just sin, it's iniquity and it's abomination. And if we find ourselves loving that, my goodness, we better turn around and drop everything you're doing and just go into your prayer closet for 3 or 4 days and seek out the Lord, because If you like what this world has to offer, then you got more serious problems than worrying about the government taking over. But yeah, it's just so important. And we used to. There's so many Christian celebrities out there nowadays that are talking about the Nephilim, and they're talking about all the stuff that's going on: UFOs, Nephilim, the New World Order, the Petros Romanus, and everything else. And that stuff needs to be heard. But it's not, if they're not telling you that stuff, and then they're not backing it up with, okay, here's the problem, here's what you do. Here's sin. Here's what you do to get rid of sin. Here's danger. Here's what you do to avoid danger. You could learn all the stuff that these men know. You could excel in what they know. You could surpass them. But if you don't know how to deal correctly, how to deal with in holiness and righteousness when it comes to these things, it's moot. It's nothing.
Just right. What good is it? It's all vanity. It's not.
And that's why Jim and I, it's probably a couple of years now, we decided to get away from all the sensationalism of the Nephilim, because everybody's out there preaching about it. Everybody's out there preaching about UFOs, Nephilim, Petros Romanus, this comet, that comet, everywhere a comet, And
Moron's coming.
Yeah, Comet Moron is definitely coming, and we're going to see how many people are going to.
It is good to know these things,
Yes.
but once you know it, do something with it.
Right.
Because I think the biggest trick that Satan is putting upon the church is people think they're doing by going to conferences, by going to classes, to studies, to watching videos and reading books. That's doing. That's not doing anything. You're getting overstuffed with teaching. You're a Oompa Loompa that's puffed up and blown up, so you're floating around and bouncing around, with all this knowledge. But what are you doing with it? You need to share this with somebody that's believing the lies and bring them out of being lost into the light of Christ. If you're not using this to bring people to Christ, you're not doing what you're supposed to with it. Now, God hasn't called us all to be evangelists, but He's called us all to evangelize. The indication of a mature adult is the ability to reproduce. The indication of a Christian mature adult is the ability to reproduce. How many people have you actually led to the Lord? How many people have you actually shared life-changing, impacting information to shake their world, to change them? How many have sought out to see how you can publicly do this by setting up a vendor's table? Why aren't there hundreds of Christians all over the nation going to New Age shows, holistic shows, sharing the faith of Christ? Why aren't some of these watchmen actually getting more personally involved in helping people be delivered from the things they're talking about? I only know 2 or 3 people on this planet that's offering termination of alien abduction. Everybody else talks about it, but I don't see anybody doing anything with it actually to change and impact lives. That doesn't sell books and tapes.
Exactly. That's the whole thing.
People come to Christ. Mm-hmm. It helps people being led out of darkness into light. I compare it like this. It's like, okay, you got 3 terrains. You got maybe a jungle, a desert, and a pine cone forest. Each is a different environment. Each has certain things you need to learn to know how to maneuver to get into these areas. But your whole purpose is to get into this area so that you can bring people that are lost in each one of these environments.
Mm-hmm.
End up getting involved. We go into the pine forest and we look around. We see this one big sequoia pine or tree or whatever, and we go, "Wow, this thing is really cool. It's old. Oh, let me pull this bark out. Let me get out my microscope, start checking out the cellular structure of this, and see how important and significant that is." Dude, you lost focus. You're supposed to be in this forest to get people out that are lost. Quit learning and use what you do know to get in there, to navigate, to get them back where they belong.
Mm-hmm. That's
out
right.
of dimension into the right one. And that's what we're doing in Christianity. We're always learning, never coming to the knowledge of the truth. The knowledge of the truth is go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature.
That's right.
Sit there and trip out on all this stuff. I mean, I remember when people say, "What's the latest on the Nephilim?" I really like to know more about the Nephilim. I've given you everything you need to know about them. Until they land on the White House, I don't have anything more to tell you.
That's right.
I have to take what you know and go and change somebody else's life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's spending your own money, maybe to get a table, maybe to get set up doing something. I mean, each one of us has particular talents, interests, hobbies. Go join a club where there's a bunch of pagan heathens in a hobby. I don't care whether it's a horse club, whether it's a rock club, whatever thing you're interested in, there's something that you can get connected to people where you can be a light. Now, don't be like Lot and get into a wife swapping club. I mean, I'm not telling you to do anything stupid like that, but I mean,
Yes.
but
Stay away from Ashley.
yeah, really, yeah, because that has a way. God has a way of exposing and blowing everything up. You can run, but you can't hide from God.
Right.
Um,
You know,
but yeah, you know, assess your own life. How much are you willing to spend, not just in tithing every week or something, but how much of your time, your energy, your effort, your money are you willing to set up and find out a way that you can personally um, evangelize people? And you can. Don't let the devil say you're small, you don't know how to do. You know, I was a welder, biker preacher from Detroit. I've sat at roundtable discussions with some of the best minds in the world. I never thought I could ever do something like that, and I didn't. It was God through me that did these kind of things. I never thought I'd be able to write a book, but it happened.
exactly.
And now I'm working on a sequel book, but only because there's so much more information that has launched off from my original book that I need to write another one called Way Beyond Science Fiction, and that one I'm going to be working on as my winter project. I've been to places and done things that I know that, and Dave, I know you too. You've been to places and done things that you probably never imagined that you could do. But in Christ, we can do all things. God will use the simple little people and promote you in your time and day to have an opportunity to share with others. But you got to be willing to start small and then grow big into it.
Yeah.
If you sit there and just say, I can't, well, I'm not this, I'm not. Well, yeah, you're right, you're not. But you know what? Christ in you is. He can do all things.
You know, Jim, I constantly run into people that are like, well, I'm not a good speaker. I don't know how to talk. Well, you know what? There are other things to do. You know, living a holy life. People see that, especially nowadays. Nobody lives a holy life anymore. If they see you're different, they're going to want to know why, and they're going to ask, and then you can tell them. There's, I lost my train of thought. There's just, like you said, getting into a club like that. But I've had more conversations with people by asking them questions, not telling them what they're doing, but asking them questions. Bringing up a subject. That Rapture movie that came out, that was really weird. What do you think about that? And I'm talking about unbelievers talking.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. It's these Christians are always running around talking about that. They're going to be out of here. They're going to leave us all by ourselves. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's right. That's a heck of an attitude to have. And because it is, and it's a wrong attitude to have. And then they start realizing that we're not all a bunch of stuffed shirts that are just carrying around signs the end of the world's coming, get saved. We all have concerns and everything. And man, you just talk to people, and you wouldn't believe the things that happen. I had I worked with a bunch of Muslims down in Sacramento. There's about 5 or 6 of them, and just by keeping quiet, not getting into too many things, and just trying to live as holy a life as I could, because nobody's truly holy, but just by acting like that, I had one Muslim come up and say to me, I want to know about your faith, and so I told him the truth. I said, I've tried a lot of different things. I looked into Hinduism. I looked into Buddhism. I looked into this religion, that religion. I said, the sum total of all those things is the only thing that makes sense to me is believing in Jesus as the Messiah and that He died for me. And the guy was speechless, and it was really neat because his phone rang after that, and he couldn't answer back, so he had time to ruminate on it. And we always had a good relationship after that. Even though I wore my kippah all the time, and by rights he should have hated me with all of his guts, but he didn't, because he knew that I was calm and peaceful, and I just wanted the best for people. And I know that in his heart he wants the best too. And another thing is, you're worried about all the Muslims coming to this country. Well, maybe they're being brought here so you can talk to them. People used to say that about the Mexicans coming up, and I'm going, this is a prime opportunity to spread the gospel to millions of people that have never heard it because they've been in the Catholic Church all these years. Get out there and talk to them. Go learn Spanish so you can go out and talk to these people. Just make friends with them and then see what happens. It's just, there's just so many things, but because people tend to think that, though there is a scripture that says no one comes unto the Father unless they comes unto me unless the Father draws them.
Yep.
Jesus was speaking. And but you know what? You're never going to know if he's drawing them if you don't talk with them.